In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read ancient tomes. The order of the Abercast. We are the brave and bold.
The Ages begins with the shocking story of Cain and Abel and the journey of violence and revenge spanning thousands of years, following Cain through his cursed life from an ancient invasion of malicious angels to the American Revolutionary War. A masterful, compelling journey through time, The Ages delves deep into arcane knowledge, myth, and legend. The art is stunning, and the story takes you on a journey where mortals, immortals, angels, and demons are all forced to deal with the folly that is God's creation. It's a beautifully dark and gritty ride through history. This 4-part story follows the astrological procession of the ages and how each 2,500-year age parallels major changes in the development of Earth's inhabitants. Cain's blasphemous struggle with the divine and sacred tyrant God will create and crumble empires, shape history, and cause a cosmic cataclysm.
The Central Intelligence Agency owns everyone of any significance in the major media, saying this quote is attributed to William Colby, Director, CIA. I always feel like somebody's watching me. American, spring-loaded mother with an evil plan. I am the boogeyman. Bring about the end with a triple mind. Hiya.
The Abercast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. Violence.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 43. I'm John Towers. Of course, you know that. Last week, we went over the real-life Crusader and the first king of Jerusalem, Godfried of Bouillon, also the inventor of the Bouillon Cube, and his fairy tale ancestor, the Knight of the Swan. It was a pretty fun episode, so I was getting revved up for episode 1, season 7 of Game of Thrones. So I went a little sword and sorcery. Hey, remember that Fiends of the Flesh is out? It's an anthology. It's got my first work of published prose in it. My story, I believe, is the second one in the book, and it's called The Communion of Scarvigar Jello. It's a story about a giant cockroach god. So there is that. There's always that. This episode is going to link in with the William Colby episode. I believe it's episode 30. And the JFK episode I did. It'll probably link into that as well. So that was earlier than 30, I think. Of course, I didn't write it down. I don't have that. I don't recall that. Congressman. Chairman, I don't recall that information. You're going to hear some of that today. So this week, we're going to talk about one of those true life conspiracy theories. With all the talk of fake news, I thought we could take a deep dive for an hour or so and take a look at something called Operation Mockingbird, along with some other shenanigans. So mix up your gin jihad, and don't forget to check in with your CI handler, because here we go. Before I get too deep into this, I'd like to remind you guys, if you'd like to support the show, the best way to do that is to buy some comic books. And if you don't want to do that, I would ask you, please, to rate and review at iTunes. You could be the first. You could be the first. And we will need it. We will need it. This episode is going to be, I'm going to throw some new stuff in. We actually have a couple audio packages. So let's stay tuned for that. Some of that stuff is going to be really funny. I opened up with William Colby in the cold open. I don't know if you ever said that, but if you look, you'll see that is that quote is assigned to him a lot. So I guess I always think about this topic ever since 2014. I've been looking at this idea. In 2014, I read this article on theguardian.uk about this Facebook emotion control experiment. So super quick, in case you haven't heard about this, it's not in it. I don't even think it made it over here, or like it did not get a lot of traction. So real quick, Facebook published the details of this experiment where it took 689,000 users and manipulated their emotions. They made them more positive or more negative through a process of emotional contagion. That's in quotes, quote, emotional contagion, unquote. With academics from Cornell and the University of California, they filtered these users' feeds. They took over the comments, the pictures, the videos, and the web links. And to push these users' friends' negative posts, resulting in more negative posts from the subject. And then they push their friends' positive content or comments, same thing, and resulting in more positive comments from other subjects. Facebook did this without notifying anyone. It is pretty creepy. This guy named Clay Johnson, who was like a big IT guy, Silicon Valley dude, whatever. He had something to do with Obama's campaign website. Anyways, he did a Twitter rampage about this thing, and he asked could the CIA incite a revolution in Sudan by pressuring Facebook to promote discontent? He also asked, should this be legal? Another question from him was, could Zuckerberg swing an election by promoting upworthy posts 2 weeks beforehand? Should that be legal? Ironically, it's funny because I just read this thing where people are predicting that Zuckerberg's going to run for president, along with The Rock or something. I don't know. God, Jesus. Anyhow, this leads up pretty perfectly to the CIA question about fomenting inciting revolution in the Sudan, or Zuckerberg swinging an election. These 2 points kind of sets up the rest of the podcast pretty perfectly. So let's get into this motherfucker. All right, so we're going to get into why I don't trust anything that I see or hear or read in any news sources anywhere. So this all first came to light in 1975. The Pike Committee was formed to investigate illegal activities of the CIA The Pike Committee was formed to investigate illegal activities of CIA, FBI, and NSA. If you go back to episode 30, you'll remember that CIA director William Colby was hauled in front of Congress a lot following Watergate. This whole thing was kind of cracked open by this Watergate thing. He had this file called the Family Jewels, which was a collection of documents that were all about the weird shit the CIA was into. Stuff like MKUltra, wiretapping journalists, kidnapping, breaking and entering, assassination plots, the mafia's involvement in a plot to assassinate Castro. So he's walking around with all this stuff. And if you remember that episode, like, people were commenting that he was too free with that, to volunteering that information. It's like he was ready to go. He was like, I'm ready to get it all out there. During the Pike Committee, they started to ask Colby questions about newspaper reporters, news outlets, TV reporters, and certain book publishers. Certain commercial book publishers. I listened to a lot of the Pike Commission questioning for hours this week, and a lot of the answers Colby was giving was like, yeah, I'll tell you all about it once the tape recorder goes off. They have this thing, they have like two, they have like the open session, and then they have something called the executive session, and I guess the executive section, they don't record any of the testimony, and this is a way for him to sort of not be forthcoming until like all that was out. And they always say like, oh, it's going to give up national secrets and all this other kind of stuff. So he always says like, as a general, he always says like, I would rather talk about that in the executive sessions, if I may. But with these answers, you could sort of piece together a sinister pattern that emerges. Because he says stuff like, as a general policy, the agency will not make any clandestine use of staff employees of U.S. publications which have a substantial impact on public opinion. But he also goes on to admit that he does use journalists. He admits that the CIA has asked news media to leave stories alone and not publish or air them. He admits that not only does he use journalists as agents, like if a guy's like, hey, I'm going to go to Romania or to do a story, and the newspaper that guy works for was like, we don't give a fuck about that story. We're not going to send you to Romania. The CIA will go like, oh, you want to go to Romania to do this story? We'll fund your trip to Romania. We'll put you up in a hotel and stuff, but we're going to give you a couple things we want you to pay attention to, and we're going to debrief you when we come back. So, you have that, and then this thing also starts with, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. They originally start doing this to kind of fight communism. Back in the day, they were like, they thought that the commies were taking over Hollywood, and the commies are taking over the school books, and the commies are taking over the news, and the commies are taking over, the newspapers. Fucking look around you. McCarthy was right. But through all of this, Colby was adamant about he was not pushing stories stateside to the American people. He admits that he would push stories in foreign publications, but he said he was not aiming it towards the American people. So let's just listen to some of this intriguing Colby testimony. Here we go.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
So that's those are some interesting answers that it gives there. It begs one to question. He also admits some other stuff in this in these Pike hearings, the Pike Committee. He admits to what he calls detailing out CIA employees to other agencies or positions. When pressed about this detailing, he admits that a CIA agent was once detailed out to President Johnson's White House staff. He goes on to they go on to further elaborate through their questions that this person was detailed to the White House staff due to her Vietnamese experience. But once she got there, she acted totally as a political operative, and she had some kind of connection where she was able to steal copies of the drafts of Barry Goldwater's speeches before he gave his campaign speeches, before he gave them out. Now, when pressed, Colby was like, that was wrong. I don't think that person should have done that. However, they did it. They never got in trouble for it, and she actually went on to retire. Isn't that nice? Okay, so the whole thing is actually pretty interesting. I'll drop it on the Facebook page if you guys want. It's long and tedious, but there's a lot of fun kind of stuff in there where you're like, what year was this? Was this yesterday? I don't understand. But then in 1979, a biographical book called Catherine the Great came out about Katharine Graham, who was the owner of the Washington Post. And we'll talk more about this lady in a second. All right, this biography, this biography, Catherine the Great, by Deborah Davis, says that in 1951, this guy named Cord Meyer became the principal operative of something called Operation Mockingbird. Now, Cord Meyer is an interesting guy. Cord Meyer is an interesting guy. He was a Marine in World War II, decorated Marine in World War II. He fought in the Pacific. Later, he was recruited in the CIA. In the early days of the CIA, a lot of their guys were military guys. I think that kind of washed out to academics and sociologists a lot of times, I think. He was married to a lady named Mary Pinchot, who later went on to fuck JFK. She was, they say, romantically involved with JFK. FYI, she was assassinated in '64. Her murder's never been solved. E. Howard Hunt from Watergate fame. His two kids, after E. Howard died, his two kids, St. John Hunt and David Hunt. It's difficult because his name is St. John Hunt, but the way you pronounce it is St. John. At least that's the way I think you pronounce it. I learned that from one of the Roger Moore James Bond movies. His alias, I think it's the one on the Golden Gate Bridge, A View to a Kill. I think it's A View to a Kill. His alias was St. John Smythe, but it's spelled out St. John. So in case you guys are doing your research, you can be like, what's this guy talking about? St. John? His fucking name is St. John. Yeah, duh. That's the way you fucking say it. That's the way that Roger Moore said it anyways. Rest in peace, Roger Moore, by the way. Okay, St. John and David Hunt claim that their father told them that Cord himself, LBJ, fucking Frank Sturgis, and William Harvey assassinated John F. Kennedy. But back to Mockingbird. By 1953, the operation had influence over 25 newspapers and wire agencies. I don't know if wire agencies are still around, but they used to be like kind of like the high speed, kind of like internet of the day. It's like when you see like old newscasts where they're like, this is hot off the wire. It's like a telegram sort of thing, I think, where they just blast out all these news articles and pieces to like different like newspapers or and TV news rooms and stuff. And they can pick and choose like what they want to announce or pay attention to or listen to. So these news wires were kind of a big deal because they keep talking about them over and over again. One was like, I think the AP, and the other one was like a something whatever. I can't remember. So Intel or whoever, CIA, the government, whatever, would develop a report, and then they would hand it off to a reporter who would then report it. And then that report will be repeated or cited by other reporters in the network. And other reporters over and over and over again. This is where they came up with the clever name Mockingbird. So I want you guys to hear this. When you think, like, this is more modern and stuff, but when you think of Project Mockingbird, this is the kind of shit that I want you to hear.
Filled up your gas tank lately, then you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
And you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are on the rise. I know.
So, this is from, I think it's from Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien has a gimmick where someone finds all these and he plays them. So shout out to Conan O'Brien. I'll put that in the show notes for that. That was not my studio audience, but it's fucking legit, man. Listen to that shit. So in the book, in this book that we're talking about, when was it? It was published in 1979. In this book, they implicate a bunch of news organizations. They implicate CBS, Time Magazine, and Life Magazine, New York Times, Washington Post, the Washington Star, the Miami News, and the Christian Science Monitor. Like I said, Colby had to go through a bunch of committees and investigations because it's just like right now. Everyone has an investigative arm and they're all looking for nothing. Well, in this case, they are looking for stuff that's there. But one of the committees was the Church Committee. And in their final report, it came out in 1976. They say this. Approximately 50 of the CIA's assets are individual American journalists or employees of these. Fewer than half are accredited by U.S. media organizations. The remaining individuals are non-accredited freelance contributors and media representatives abroad. More than a dozen U.S. news organizations and commercial publishing houses formally provide cover for CIA agents abroad. A few of these organizations were unaware that they were providing this cover. So, to me, that's a pretty crazy statement. Like, if you are in like a confrontation with somebody, or you're trying to convince somebody or a group of people to do something that is your way, the best way to do that is when they think it was their fucking idea. So they're not even strong-arming these guys. They're not even paying them. They just trick them into doing what they want to do. I believe that's crazy, son. So we're going to go through a couple things here. Hold on. We're going to go through a couple instances of fake news and or questionable things. Things that make you go, We're going to go through a couple of these. Hold on. All right. So in 1990, there's this reporter for CNN named Charles Jacko, Jaco. It's probably Yakko. I don't know how they pronounce this fucking dude's name. But we're in Desert Storm at this time. And you can, I dare you, if you don't know who this guy is, I dare you to go to YouTube and, you can find him a couple different ways. You can actually just type his name in and probably find him, or it's funner to say CNN fake news Desert Storm. If you type in CNN fake news right now, you're going to get a bunch of shit from like last week. So, or the last couple months. So be a little bit more specific, but this guy is a total fucking clown, and you can see him rehearsing over and over again, like in front of this green screen, talking about surviving a Scud attack, and they got him like, he's sitting in fucking Atlanta in front of a green screen, pretending like to put on his fucking gas mask, and he's like pretending that he's dealing with this Scud attack in Baghdad. It's fucking hilarious. This guy, on top of that, this guy's got the most annoying fucking laugh you could ever hear. So, if you think that I'm full of shit, or you think that CNN doesn't have fake news, and always didn't have fake news, go and look at this fucking YouTube videos of this guy, and don't be like, yo, Snopes says this, or this has been debunked, or whatever. Fucking go look at it, and you tell me what you think is going on. This guy's a total rube. And that's what I think. All right, so here, let's get a little bit more current for right now. Anderson Cooper interned with the CIA for 2 summers. Once he graduated, he's like, no, bro, I'm just going to go be a reporter. Even though he has no formal journalism schooling, he's just like, oh, no, man, it's cool. I'm okay. I'm just going to go be my life calling is being a reporter. Do you understand how hard it's got to be to get an internship in the CIA? I find that super suspicious. You know what I'm saying? He's also got some shit. Well, I'll get to it in a minute. Hold on. I'll get to that in a minute. In 2016, Obama signs this bill, the Countering Information Warfare Act of 2016, which effectively makes it legal. I channeled Macho Man there for a second. It effectively makes it legal for the government, whoever, CIA, whatever you choose to subscribe to, to propagandize the American people. So it was illegal for the CIA, it was legal for CIA to do propaganda pointing inwards. This is why when William Colby was being questioned, he was so adamant about it was not being used stateside. It was all being projected outwards. in foreign countries. But so this guy, it's a bipartisan bill. It makes me want to fucking throw up all over the place. It was set up as this argument that foreign governments are spending fortunes on propagandizing the American people. And the U.S. spends very little on propagandizing the American people. So they were like, we need this. We need to be able to propagandize to the American people. And it was signed in 2016. It was funded in 2017. It's happening right fucking now. And its stated goal is to establish a center for information analysis and response. What's a response? What's a response to propagandizing? Here it is. Develop and disseminate, quote, fact-based narratives, unquote, to counter effrontery propaganda. So basically, they're saying we gotta make up our own stories to fight these other fucking guys' stories. This is before the fake news meme, everybody. This is way before the fake news meme. So we're going to take another break to hear from Project Mockingbird.
Email inbox is out of control and you've given up sorting it out. A Baltimore company thinks it has a solution for you. Could this be the end of email overload?
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 Could this be the end of email overload? Could this be the end of email overload?
Could this be the end of email overload?
Could this be the end of email overload?
Could this be the end of email overload?
Could this be the end of email overload? Could this be the end of email overload?
Could this be the end of your email overload?
Could this be the end of 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 that email overload?
Could this be the end of 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 email overload?
Could this be the end to email overload?
Could this be the end of 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 email overlord?
She said overlord. Oh my god, that shit is fucking funny as shit. Email overlord. Oh, sorry. I just got a smartwatch. I'm trying to figure it out. I always wanted to watch like Lando Calrissian had in Return of the Jedi. He never used it. You never seen him like typing it out or anything, or plugging it into anything. It's just a weird watch. It's got a red light on it. So I wore watches a lot when I was a kid because I was awful at math. So I always had one of those nerdy Casio fucking calculator watches. And once I graduated, I was like, well, okay, 10th grade or whatever. I was like, I'm never going to wear this watch again. And then I became a combat engineer in the Army. And I realized that I had to do all these complicated formulas to figure out det cord burnt rates and shit like this. So I had to go out and get another calculator watch, and I had to wear it in the field all the time so I could whip it out and do my mathematical calculations. So it looks like I'm back to that. All right, so what do we have now when we look at the media? I'm going to pick on CNN here for a little while. After the London bombings, CNN is out there in London staging shots of Muslim mothers protesting ISIS. All these things you can find on YouTube if you know where to look. So just type in CNN fake news and you'll be able to find all of this shit that I'm talking about. The night of the election, which was my favorite night of 2016. It was just so awesome for them to like check in on Hillary Clinton campaign headquarters and see everyone crying. Oh my God, that was the best, bro. It was the best. Oh my God. I wish I would have fucking DVR'd that. That whole night, I should have DVR'd everything. The night of the election, CNN interviews a protester outside someplace ranting about supporting Hillary Clinton, and cuts to Don Lemon, who's like the stupidest person on CNN, because it's like they're like cutting to this guy and he's like ranting. He's like, I've been to Africa. I've seen the hospitals that you built. I've seen the people that you help, that you support. And he's being like crazy. We're jumping around and stuff. And then it cuts to Don Lemon, and Don Lemon's like, hey man, I know that guy. That's so-and-so. That's Bill whatever. He's my buddy. He was actually my cameraman when CNN sent me to Africa. He outed a CNN employee as a fake protester live on CNN. I can't even make this shit up. I can't even make it up. I couldn't even try to make up that. Like, think of what he had to be thinking of. Like, he's like, wow, what a coincidence. What a coincidence that my cameraman is out there protesting like a lunatic on CNN. I'm going to call him out. Oh, my God. Project Mockingbird, y'all. Operation Mockingbird, y'all.
News, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year. Economic factors may take some out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some of the spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take the spring out of the step of the Easter Bunny.
All right. Yeah, so there are kids running around yelling fake news to CNN whenever they're on location. And then there's this important thing that actually happened a couple weeks ago. Project Veritas. They had this hidden camera, and they somehow they're able to get in and talk to a producer, a news producer on CNN who's been with CNN for 15 years, and the hidden camera guy starts talking to him about this Russia collusion thing, and the CNN guy goes, it's all bullshit. Like, he's like, it's all bullshit. There's nothing there. And he starts telling the story to put it in perspective. He was like, hey, when Trump pulled out of the Accords, we did that for a day. We talked about Trump pulling out of the Paris Accords for a day. And then after that, the COO or the head motherfucker at CNN goes, Jeff Zucker goes, all right, you guys did a great job with this Paris thing, but now back to Russia. We're talking about Russia. We got to go back to Russia. Even though this guy's like, it's all bullshit. There's nothing. No one has any evidence of this. It's right to call it a witch hunt, he says. And it's on camera. And I know you guys you guys might not even have seen this because it's not on any fucking news channel. And you think if your competition is CNN, you would plaster this everywhere, but it's just disappeared. It's just nowhere. You know, unless you're looking out for it. I mean, you guys, you're conspiracy minded or whatever, maybe, I'm not sure, but, so you might know about this, but it's blatant. It's clear as day. This guy's like, he's been with CNN for 15 years, and he's like, this is all just bullshit. Like, this is just how we're making money. We're just making money because this is what's selling ads right now. So he's like, climate accords, one day is fine. Now we got to go back to the Russian collusion thing, because that's where it's at, or whatever. In the same Project Veritas video, they catch up with Van Jones, who's like this. He's like one of these black identity commies. He was in the Obama administration for like a minute, until I think it was Glenn Beck outed him and found some bullshit that he had said in the past. So they had to get rid of his ass. And but now he's a news person on CNN, because it's totally unbiased. But the guy runs into Van Jones, and he was like, "Hey man, I met you at like wherever last year, and like, yeah, how's everything going?" He goes, "Hey, what do you think is going to happen this week about this Russian collusion thing?" And Van Jones is like, "What Russian collusion thing?" He was like, "Man, that is a big nothing burger. Like, there's nothing there. Like, literally, there's nothing there. It's on camera. They fucking found this guy, but whenever he's on CNN, he's like, Trump, Russian collusion, Trump, Russian collusion." So I know you're probably like, what are you fucking talking about? I haven't seen this thing. You just got to go look for it. You got to go look for it. Anderson Cooper faking an interview on a green screen, like he turns and it's like the wrong like direction or something, and like his nose gets cut off. It gets phased out like in the middle of this interview, and they're just like, "Yep, whatever." You got this. Oh God, did I already mention? Where is it at? I lost it. There's this thing with Nancy Grace and Ashley Banfield. Where this one went viral a little bit. So they're on like a satellite interview, like where one of them is supposed to be on location and the other one's supposed to be in the studio or something, but they're in the same parking lot facing the same direction, because the cars are driving by, and there's a bus in a car, and it goes through Nancy Grace's frame, and then like goes through to Ashley Banfield's frame. And that one I think was on John Stewart, I think. So that's why it went viral. But you're just like, what the fuck is this all about, man? So Project Mockingbird, y'all. That's what I'm saying.
It's one of the most recognized snack cakes, but now the Twinkie may be in trouble.
Could the Hostess Twinkie be in trouble?
The Twinkie could be in trouble.
Trouble for the Twinkie?
Trouble for the Twinkie.
Twinkie trouble.
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 Twinkie trouble. Twinkie trouble. Trouble in Twinkie land.
All right, so let's not forget about this. Let's not forget about the Podesta emails. So, during the campaign in 2016, everyone says Podesta was hacked. Podesta wasn't hacked. He was phished. Any of you that have ever had to sit through a corporate class on social engineering and hacking and phishing knows the fucking difference behind this, because you get asked about it 100 fucking million times. So when you're hacked, your computer is broken into from I guess it could be while you're sitting right in front of it or a different location, but you have nothing to do with it. When you're phished, that means that you are retarded enough to give someone access to your computer. So that means you get an email and you get a weird link. You click on the link to download a file. The file gets downloaded. It has some kind of crazy thing. You guys probably know more about this than I do. You know what I'm saying? And then leaking is where someone's like, I stole your information. I'm going to give it to WikiLeaks or whatever. Anyhow, Podesta was leaked. Or no, I'm sorry. Podesta was phished. Someone sent him an email and was like, hey, I need your password. He emailed his IT guy and was like, is it cool? Should I give this guy my password? And the IT guy mistakenly said, yeah, give him your password. I never know any IT guy that would say that. But reportedly, this is what this IT guy said. So John Podesta was like, yeah, sure. My password is password 123. I don't know if that's what it is, but it was super basic, and it reminded me of that scene in Spaceballs. Now, I don't like the movie Spaceballs, which is weird because I like every other Mel Brooks movie, but Spaceballs to me seem to fall a little flat. There's like the two parts that I really like is the part where he's like, that's what a retard would program as his luggage combination. And the other part I like is when they're like, comb the desert, and it's got the white Spaceballs with a comb, and they're actually a giant comb, and they're combing the desert, and they're like, we have nothing to report, we haven't found anything. And then it pans over to the black Spaceballs, and they have a pick, and they're picking the desert, and they're like, man, we ain't found shit. But that's what that reminds me of. So WikiLeaks posted a large number of emails that were taken foolishly from John Podesta. And a lot of these emails are really funny. You guys might not even hear about this. I mean, if you're paying attention to the news, because no one, not Fox, nobody talked about these emails. If you go to WikiLeaks, you can fucking search them out, look at them, index them, you can read through them. This is where the Pizzagate came from. Is this series of WikiLeaks dumps? But I mean, there were some hilarious WikiLeaks, by the way. They WikiLeaked an email chain where these people were like, they were talking about Hillary Clinton, and they're like, oh my God, she's due on stage in like 3 hours. Does someone want to go wake her up? They're talking about how she's a day drinker. They don't like hanging around her. One of the emails was like, she smells like cabbage and piss, which once I read that, I was sad, because now every time I look at her, I think of that, and it's awful. But none of these have ever been disputed. No one ever came out to be like, these are fake or whatever. They just left them alone. But so the important part, what I should be getting to this whole time, is in here there were emails from journalists who are openly working with the Hillary campaign. There's one guy who's like, look, I'm a hack. I will write whatever you want. There's an email to Debbie Wasserman Schultz or something, and they're like, hey, is this okay? I would like your okay on it before I submit it to my editor. It's totally just rolling over, lubing it up, touching your toes for Hillary Clinton. So it's like, when you hear about this fake news, you got to really put it in perspective. You know, it doesn't seem like anybody knows or acknowledges these wiki dumps or whatever, because when you talk about fake news, it's like, it's right here. It's out there. Everyone can look at it. Everybody can fucking see it. And when you talk about, I'm going to go off on a little side tangent here, not to be a little too crazy, but look, when you talk about collusion to hack the election, whatever you think that means, whatever that means to you, there's email evidence from the DNC and from the Podesta leaks and from the DNC hack that there was collusion. There was a lot of collusion going on, and all the collusion was from the DNC and Hillary Clinton to go get over on Bernie Sanders. And like, it's right there where they're just like, nope, no matter what happens, he's never getting in. So you're like, what is this fucking guy doing anyways? And then once they pull one over on him, he's just like, yo, whatever, everything's cool, just support Hillary and give me my fucking house. I got a $600 million house, or however much this fucking third house costs. He's a great socialist. This guy is an awesome socialist. You're so fooled. Hey, Project Mockingbird, y'all. Whoa. Project Mockingbird, y'all.
Welcome back in. The final days of the campaign sometimes can get a little salty.
Well, the
Yeah, a little
days of
salty.
the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
The final days of the campaign can get a little salty.
As you probably noticed, the final days of the campaign have been, well, you might call them just a little salty.
So, who's writing this? Who's writing all these? So what is this all? Is it all political theater? Is it mind control? Or emotion control? Is it deep? I mean, I don't know about this because it just seems silly. 100 people talking in the exact same sentences about fucking Twinkies. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I don't know why you would do that. One person writes this and it goes to 100 different fucking places. Is it deep state propaganda? I don't know. But it does seem like something weird is going on, right? It seems like something fucking weird is going on. I mean, come on. It's weird, right?
Vienna, 1683. Today is September 11th, 1683. The mighty army of the Ottoman Empire, led by the savage and radical terror troops of the Dar al-Harb, surround the walled city of Vienna and begin a siege to break the golden apple of Europe and kill, enslave, or convert all of its inhabitants. The valiant citizens stand against the tyrannical army with the steadfast leadership of Count Ernst Rudiger von Stromberg, the help of the ever-living rebel Cyrus the Dead Guy, and the hopes of the faraway King Jan Sobieski III and his army of flying hussars. The Vienna 1683 comic is available right now from Stigmata Studios at stigmatastudios.com and on indieplanet.us. The Non-Standard Squad, 1944. World War II. 3 weird American soldiers are on a search and rescue mission into the oldest and darkest regions of Europe. A cursed, ever-living warrior, Cyrus the Dead Guy. An experimental warbot, Sergeant Lane McCord. An all-red axe, mysterious rogue with a demon-possessed arm come face-to-face with an army of magically corrupted machine-obsessed elves, a magic hammer-wielding Norse Ubermensch, and a Nazi wizard who is a member of the ancient Dark Order of the Shining Hexagon. The Non-Standard Squad 1944 comic is available right now from Stigmata Studios at stigmatastudios.com and on indieplanet.us.
So look, y'all, I am working on newly redesigning stigmatastudios.com, so check it out. You get to see some of the upcoming stuff. If you're wondering, if I just got you through an hour of your fucking shitty work day and you're like, what the fuck am I going to listen to next? I want you to go to society-13.com, find some of our other great podcasts that are out there. We have a podcast for everybody, I'm sure. History Goes Bump, The Lift, The Wicked Library, Kettle Whistle Radio, Red Horse Radio. We got all kinds of stuff out there. Prog Watch with the Prog Squatch. So check all that shit out. If you could, please support the show. You could support, the best way to support the show is to buy a comic book or two, or a graphic novel or two. You go to stigmatastudios.com. You can find links to everything out there right now. If you don't have the dough, or you're not interested in comic books, you just like to hear me talk about weird fucking shit, a great way to support the show, and you would be the first if you were to do this, and I would be fucking so happy. I would give you shouts out and read your rates and your reviews. on iTunes. But if you don't even want to do that, if you're like, look, I don't got the 2 seconds it's going to take me to fucking do that, bro. Another thing that you could do is you could just share the show on your social media, or if you know a weird motherfucker like you that's just like, hey, I want to hear about magic rocks and wizards and shit. And some World War II stuff and tanks and like whatever. Yeah, just tell them to tune in. Tell them about the show. Tell them to tune in. Tell them how much fun we have. That's what I want. You can sign into the newsletter. It's in the link is in the show notes. And yeah, that's it. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I love you guys. I love looking at the numbers of the show. So thank you so much. Just trying to get to know you better. That's all. Just trying to get to know you better. You know, what you like. You like a little smack and tickle? You like a little dirty talk? You know, I'm just trying to get to know you better, girl or boy or whatever. I'm not assuming your gender. Don't fucking go crazy on me. With that, it's Soda Jerk, the breakup of the year. It's coming at your ear holes right now.
Tired of me, you just put me down. 'Cause you lost that fight for me and you don't want me around. Well, I saw you coming and I'm glad that you're here. 'Cause it's gonna be the greatest. It's gonna be the greatest. It's gonna be the greatest breakup of the year. Well, I won't pretend to miss you. I won't even know you're gone. Well, let's not skirt the issue. You found another one. Well, I went through your purse. The evidence was clear, and it's gonna be the greatest. It's gonna be the greatest. It's gonna be the greatest breakup of the year. Well, I won't sing the blues. Maybe they'll put us on the evening news. Well, I'm so miserable, it's almost like you're here. Greatest. It's gonna be the greatest. It's gonna be the greatest breakup of the year. Breakup of the year. Breakup of the year. Breakup of the year.
Bye, y'all. Thanks.